Welcome to the Sodcast. It's the first day of fall 2021, and I'm so happy to be joined by Larry Ryan. I'm here actually in Larry's front yard, which is beautiful. His location is beautiful. And before we get started, before we get into questions, I just wanted to point out the fact that Ryan Lawn and Tree has likely been the most supportive company of K-State in terms of hiring graduates over many years, has provided nearly, and Larry, you may not know this, nearly $200,000 since the mid-90s
I did not
for
know
research support.
Okay.
And no company has done that for us. So having said that, we're so fortunate to have your involvement in what we've done over the years, and that continues. It still goes. In the 1980s you started. I remember first meeting, I came to K-State in 1991, and I remember you mentioning putting, as Ryan Lawn and Tree started, putting cards, advertising cards behind people's windshield wipers in a church parking lot. When this company first started, did you ever expect it would be where it is now when you were doing that in the church parking lot?
Well, yes, but maybe out of naiveness, Jack. You know, I forestry degree, and I remember what I've learned from you and how you've held me accountable over the years, but I worked for the guy that started Pizza Hut for just a short period of time and saw how he expanded to a national presence through franchising. So I would read Fortune magazine and business magazines, and I dreamed of being much bigger, of being a national tree care company. But then as I continued to study the green industry, I realized it's really turf that's the foundation. And so I had to change my focus to turf first and then tree second. Well, we aren't a national company, but we do have that in our plans for the future.
You're getting close.
Well, we're actually just in 3 states, but it is a dream. What I didn't understand though was excellence, and how it is much more important to have excellence in each and every yard, in each and every lawn, in each and every landscape than it is to be big. So that's how I've changed, Jack.
Yeah. How did the years in the restaurant industry impact what you've done?
Well, 2 things. One is it taught me a lot about business, about why you have to understand an income statement, why you have to understand profitability, because it's really profits that grow an industry. It's profits that allow us to contribute to K-State. But the second thing that was incredibly important is it taught me to hire. Not just to hire a person, but to hire the right person. And what I learned more than anything is that recruiting, look at K-State football, you recruit all the time. You continue to recruit and you set your sights higher. And every time you hire at one level, it allows you to have a little better program to hire at the next level and then the next. And it's exactly what Bill Snyder did at Manhattan, and so we've learned from him. But I didn't understand all that as a young man. And it's interesting, it's nice being an old man now because you start getting perspective, Jack.
What was the passion that has driven you over the past 30 plus years in this industry? What's the passion you have for the industry?
Well, it started out trees because, okay, Kansas farm kid, went to Kansas State, 2 years in Montana, my last 2 to get a forestry degree. So yes, trees and a tree hugger and all that, and then it became the environment. When you grew up in the 50s in Kansas and you're on a farm, things like controlling soil erosion. I mean, I'm a high school kid writing to the USDA and the Forest Service, getting all these pamphlets in big packets every week when they used to give them away free, thinking how you build ponds, how you build terraces, the slope on a dam and all that. I mean, what high school kid does that very much? But then it really parlayed into turf grass because I saw the power of it. I think I saw it better than some people in it because I had a larger perspective. And I tell people today, okay, you have 10,000 varieties of grasses in the world and about 50 of those can be cultivated into a lawn. I still love my forest, but a nice lawn holds the soil, which is darned important, holds the soil better than my forest does. Okay, you can't grow grass in the shade, so there's a right place, right plant. But one started overlapping into the other. And I fell in love with turf grass so much that I taught turf one out junior college here for 5 years. And the more you teach, the more you learn, the more that passion grows. Sure. And probably, Jack, you know me, I have problems balancing passion sometimes with realism. But I just flat love our industry.
Yeah. And Ryan Lawn and Tree is involved in lawn and tree care, pest control, landscaping, irrigation. I guess one thing, first of all, explain 1987 versus where the company is now in terms of size, employees, states, and how much has it changed over the years?
It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot. It's changed faster than I've been able to adapt. I'm not one of those people that's fluidly flowed into every position, and I struggle today. Yeah. Today my job is really to meet the industry, to find those people out there that are struggling some way with their business that would really like to merge their business into ours. Okay, in 1994 we were just under $1 million in revenue, and the other thing I learned in the restaurant business was spreadsheets. And I ran my numbers out through 2004. And one of the guys, Tim Jorns, a K-State turf grad that joined me in '89, so 32 years later, still here, he brought passion for turf grass and taught me that. So he showed me a spreadsheet in about 2006 or 7 that I created in '94. And he said, Larry, look at this, I want you to see it. Well, it showed the numbers, $980,000. And then I predicted that in 2004 we'd have $6.5 million in revenue, which really correlates to how many employees we need from Manhattan, from Kansas State. But I had predicted $6.5 million, and he had circled this and said, okay, in 2004 we did not hit $6.5 million, we hit $7.5 million. He said, Larry, what you don't know is you walked out of that room that day with the 9 of us and we laughed at you behind your back. He said, we're not laughing anymore. Well, that wasn't me. That was those people working together with a common cause. And Jack, that's the power of your students teaching the industry and then bringing a business focus to it.
Yeah, incredible. One thing about your company, which you just inferred in your comment, is that you're hiring full-time, career-based employees. How impactful has that been on the business?
It's incredible. It's incredible. And I want to caveat just a little bit. 4 things in life everybody needs is somebody that loves us, somebody that we love, variety. Variety is why we get home at night and mow our lawn, right? It feels good after a tense day in the office, or we go play golf, whatever it is. And the 4th thing is a deep sense of purpose. And that purpose, everything works together, and I've learned that. And that full-time person, I mean, my commitment the rest of my life, and as an old man, I know those years are numbered, but my commitment is to see the industry change, to realize that if they would give up that owner selfishness that I've got to make every dollar this year and start looking at those people, how can we create revenue for 12 months a year? Jack, a man or a woman can't raise a family on a seasonal job. You know, I said I lived in Montana, finished my forestry degree out there. That's a recreation state. Those folks get by. They don't have financial success that you do in the Midwest. They get by with life. Well, our whole industry sort of gets by, and we have to change that.
Makes sense. And how important, and you've been involved and interacted with multiple universities over the years, how important are your campus visits with students in terms of recruiting interns, recruiting employees, and getting them involved in the careers that you offer?
It's been critical. It's been critical to the point that sometimes when we have get-togethers and people introduce themselves, they'll say, you know, I met Larry when he gave a talk at such and such. Our operations officer today, Phil Fisher, was Oklahoma OSU grad. He was president of the Turf Club. He said, Larry and Kathy's my wife, visited the university. It was a little over 20 years ago, met me in a class. I thought, I'm going to be a golf course superintendent, but he had done it and didn't like the hours that the assistants work in those first 3 or 4 years. He said, maybe this is an opportunity for me. And Phil has really grown tremendously from branch manager in Wichita to now he's really number 1 behind me. And he runs the company, he and our COO. And Jack, wouldn't happen if I would. And I call myself an insecure extrovert. I had to push myself to walk on campus those early years. I had to push myself to develop my communication skills so that I could have the courage to talk to somebody like yourself that's a doctor in turf grass. And you know, it's interesting, but we do think, we look up to people. Well, we learn that we level the playing field as we grow in our knowledge and our confidence. And it's so important we do that we learn to work together.
Yeah. Do you think your ability to bring in full-time career-based employees has had an impact on other companies in the industry?
I know it has. I think our commitment to quality has had a tremendous impact here in Kansas City on other companies. We're seeing it in Wichita now, in Springfield. Maybe in the towns Tulsa and St. Louis where we're small, we aren't seeing that our influence is. Well, I think what we're telling people is there's a different way to run the business. Yeah. It's one of the things that we want to get together with department heads from a dozen different colleges in January. And it's part of our message is teach the student that's graduating today there's a different way to be even an employee in the business. That if we bring business into it, etc., what can we do in the wintertime to pay our salary? At least to pay part of the expenses so that we can get through the winter. Because if I can wear my logo or you wear your K-State logo 12 months a year and we don't have to have a new person in the shirt every year, we do a better job of selling who we are, of selling the industry. Knowledge builds on itself. I mean, at over 70 years of age, I'm definitely a better communicator than I was 10 years, 20, 30 years ago. You're a better professor. I mean, I've heard you talk, and I've watched you grow too, and you got it.
Yeah. Over the years, what's been most challenging for you in this profession?
Probably getting over myself. By that, we're all limited by our own skill set, by our own knowledge, by our ability to adapt, and that's been difficult for me. I call myself an insecure extrovert. That insecurity that I'm not good enough, on one hand, it's pushed me to be ambitious, but on the other hand, I've said the wrong things at the wrong time. I've blurted something out. That's number one for me. Number two, though, is really learning to be a team player because we're stronger than I am. That great game of business that we're practicing now, one of their concepts, you can stop one person, it's hard to stop 100. And if our industry would unite together as one industry, we'd quit putting the other side of it down. And I have an issue with the organic issue right now. They're saying we're poisoning the environment. We're saying there's plenty of work for everybody. And I don't have to put you down or vice versa for us to be successful. Our success or lack of it is more of not knowing how to market, more of not knowing how to hire than it is that I'm robbing business from you. We could lift, rising tide lifts all boats. And when we learn that as an industry, I've watched the restaurant industry that I was a little bit a part of change in the last 40, 50 years. And oh my gosh, it's gotten better in most ways. Some ways not, but most ways we need to learn that.
That's good. So that was some challenges. What makes you feel most uplifted, heart-warmed about this industry and your business?
The quality of our people. The quality of the people, and we look at those 5-star reviews that we get or don't get every week. And we get a very high positive feedback from the industry, and we try to pass that on to the people all the time. When a client calls in and says, your people did an incredible job seeding my yard or pruning trees or whatever it is, every one of those calls that the office gets, they forward them to me, and I'll call that person back and thank them. Jack, and then we feed it back to the person. I've watched people grow now for a number of years, and when I see what they've become compared to where they were when they started, I am so proud. I see the industry has grown a lot too.
Yeah, cool. In the 90s, you became a employee-owned company. How important was that? How has that changed things?
I think it changes us and it makes us more attractive to people. Every year, about April, we get a statement on every single person that says what their value is in the company. And one of the young men allowed us to, when we took those statements around to every department, every branch, he allowed us to tell his story. And he's been with us 22 years as a pruner. His 401k, which he helps contribute to that himself, and the ESOP, Employee Stock Ownership Plan, the combined total in the accounts this year was $895,000. For a 22-year person, that's incredible for this industry. And we tell people, okay, he's not a manager of people. You don't have to be a manager of people to be important. You have to do your job very well and be recognized for doing your job very well.
Yeah, that's incredible. This is probably too deep a question, but maybe just a few bullet points on what you think. How can we be better at attracting students to college that are interested in this industry?
A couple of things. First, our industry has to be a better employer. This is going to take time. I'm looking at a 10-year cycle for that to really take it from where it is today to a higher level. So that's one. Two is there are a lot of people, and we have a poster in the office that I'm in that says, put your degree to work outdoors, in the outdoors. And if you can find that right employer, almost any degree works. In our company, where we have a lot of horticulture and forestry grads, if you come to work for us, our people will teach you the basic knowledge, and you can use that knowledge to platform off of to do it very well. But also, I think what you're doing today, learning to market our industry for what it really is and what it can become. We have to do both things. Who we are today, and not pretend that you'll get out of college and start $100,000 a year here. But if you'll get out of college, you'll take some marketing courses, take some business courses, learn a little bit about personnel management. While you're in school, work in the hospitality industry to help pay for some of your education, and learn that learning to look somebody in the eye is important. I truly think it's holding us back in this industry, but not realizing that we have to be more. You know, the second thing is, quit selling a commodity. I grew up on a farm, and you took wheat to market, it made no difference who drove the truck, you got the same price. If we put a person who's knowledgeable, that can interact well in that truck, we can command a higher price. And Jack, we try to value add everything that we sell. I'm telling our people now that we still aren't charging enough. We have services, we have people raving about it. They'll say, but I want it cheaper. Of course they want it cheaper. We're all selfish to some degree. But they're going to get, if they want our quality, they're going to pay the price that we charge for it. So we have to do all those things and learn to combine them together.
Yeah, makes sense. Anything, we've covered a lot of different topics. Anything I missed that you'd like to touch on?
Well, I think, let's go back to rising tides lifts all boats. I think it's critically important that in this industry, and we could do it at Kansas Turfgrass, we can do it at the Magic Conference here, every conference, every school visit, is encourage people to, whoever you work for, encourage that owner or a not-for-profit or everybody, let's all learn to work together. Let's realize a lot of the things that we do in this industry are dangerous. And I truly mean that. They say, okay, well, mowing lawns, is that really? Well, look at people who do blue-collar work. Oftentimes they don't make it to 65. They have a bad back. They have a torn rotator cuff. They have this, they have that. And charge for what it's worth. One of the things we should learn from the insurance industry is in tree work, the higher you are above the ground, the harder you're going to hit the ground. Charge more as you go up. We don't charge the same rate to climb an 80-foot tree that we do to prune a shrub, the same rate per hour. And let's match our pricing to the risk. The other thing is, and I heard this years ago by a guy in heavy construction, they do rock work. He said, Larry, we tell people that in 20 years their body's worn out, they're going to have to learn something else. Well, if we're wearing their body out, don't we have some social responsibility for that? Don't we try to move them into jobs that are less physical? Don't we have an obligation to get that new piece of equipment that carries the heavy log? Or we don't see people on walk-behind mowers very much anymore. Most of them are standers or sit-down machines that are hopefully less damaging to their body over 10, 20, 30 years. So I think to realize that we have a social responsibility and that the whole thing fits together, Jack. I truly think we can change the industry. We won't do it in 12 months. Yeah. We won't do it in 3 years. But if we don't start today and we're not intentional every year, it will not be an industry that will grow, that will excite people and attract them into the colleges. And you know what? That's what I want, and I think it's very possible.
Yeah.
We want your grads.
Yeah, I know. And Larry, we really appreciate you joining today and covering this material and teaching you've been deeply involved in. K-State has 3 stools, land-grant universities, teaching, research, and extension. You've been involved in all, and definitely today in extension. We're going to get this information out. So again, thank you for joining us and all that you've done over the years.
Jack, I think it's been a privilege to work with you. We have about 80 grads right now from Manhattan, and we have grads from 80 different colleges, so obviously you dominate. We're just under 400 employees, and we think we'll be at 500 at the end of next year. So we're committed to the industry. That's what I want you to know.
Very good. Thanks for joining the Sodcast today.